to another great start. This month we have the honor to have Dr. Nassim Sohaee as our speaker. Dr. Nassim Sohaee is an accomplished researcher with dual Ph.D. in mathematics and computer science. Following her postdoc fellowship at UT Southwestern, she served as a clinical assistant professor at UT from 2015 to 2022, and currently she holds the position of clinical associate professor at UT. Her research is centered on machine learning and artificial intelligence, with a particular emphasis on application in transportation and safety. Dr. Nassim has made a significant contribution to AI-driven solutions that address pressing challenges in public infrastructure and safety. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be speaking in this series. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for inviting me. UT Dallas is a home for me. I am alumni of UT Dallas, but getting my PhD in 2009 from this school. So I'm very excited to be back here. And meanwhile, I was working for a couple of years in JSOM, Business School of UT Dallas, for another couple of years. Now, for the introduction, thank you so much. That was my introduction. My name is Nassim Sohaee. I have, as of now, clinical associate professor at UT, School of Business and Department of Information Technology and Social Science. Besides that, I am the president of a new company. Well, this company was born 3 years ago. Brand new systematics with the goal of implementing modern technology and then AI and transportation systems. And as of now, I am also the chief intelligence officer of a new startup. The company hasn't been started yet, but it's going to be established in the future. This is called the Orion Dental Patient Management. And it's an AI-driven system, patient management system. And we're working on this specific company. The timing of this presentation, this talk, is interesting because about a month ago, when Dr. Kennedy emailed me about this talk and then get myself prepared for this presentation, I was trying at the time of making a major decision in my life, in my career, basically. And after about 20 years of teaching, both as a TA and working as a faculty, I decided to quit academic job. And then we focused on industry and on this two startups that I started. This decision didn't come easy. And obviously I spent a lot of time thinking about it, considering all the variables in my life. And I finally came up with this solution, with this decision. So I've had many ideas to present, but I figured that maybe discussing my nonlinear transition to this time that I am, or this position that I am, is going to be helpful to many, including women, since it's going to be a great series. Because I had a lot of obstacles along the way, and definitely my career path was on a linear career path, and I had a lot of turns along the way. And those turns, they were made it more challenging and at the same time more interesting. And it made the person that I am right now standing in front of you. So I've decided to dedicate this talk entirely to my story. So what you're seeing here or hearing today is not going to be anything technical, but I'm going to tell you my story and along the way the lessons that I've learned. And I hope that you, if in the future you are facing any of those obstacles, at least you have seen that somebody else went that path and then faced similar obstacles along the way. Now, I'm going to start my story from the time that I was a high school student. That goes back many years ago. And while I was in sophomore in high school, then at that time, well, probably you know about the Fermat's gas theorem. Have you heard about that? Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm going to explain that. That theorem basically says that a to the power of n plus b to the power of n equals c to the power of n. Doesn't have any integer solution for n bigger than 2. That theorem was something that Fermat was putting on a marginal object that book he was reading at the time. And he put a note that the solution is so simple, and I'm not writing that here. It took mathematicians 350 years and no solution. Nobody could solve this problem. A lot of people are guessing that probably the solution that he had in his mind was wrong, that he was thinking that this is quite simple. Now, fast forward 350 years after, and one evening of 1995, while I was in high school, I heard that there is a mathematician in London, started approaching solving this problem. He started writing the paper and then posting his solutions, partially, and then sending to the math community to check his the stats that he's writing. And it took about 2 years to check this solution. And in 1997, finally, he published a paper and basically put it into 350 years problem. So, what is the relation? Why I was hearing about this approach of this mathematician, that he is using computers, superpowered computers, along with mathematical techniques to solve this problem. I figured out that, okay, I need to know more about that. And I started looking around at different math problems. And little by little, it became my habit of sitting somewhere and doing some math problems. I joined the math club in my high school. I participated in any math competition that came up. And that made me more and more interested in math and the beauty of the math and the sense of the pure math. And eventually, it ended up to be a degree program for my undergrad. So I started my undergrad as a math major. I was enjoying abstract math, topology, algebra, related geometry. They were all my courses, favorite courses. I spent hours upon hours working on those math problems until the first semester in my junior year. I had one course, Combinatorics 1. I took that with a professor who just recently graduated from Harvard University. And he was teaching that course for the very first time. So he was young, energetic. And then I enjoyed this course pretty much. So that started a friendship between us. So in office hours, I was stopping by his office. We were talking about math problem, and then the way that I got interested into math. And he told me what advice that he had for me. And stayed with me since that time. It changed my course of life. Or basically is going to be my first turning point was what he said to me at that time. He told me, even though that the beginning of this story is nice, you got interested into math because of the last firm's theory. But the fact is, Fermat didn't live long enough to see that this problem was solved. Maybe 3 decades later, people could solve that problem. And the problem with abstract math is you don't see the result of your efforts immediately. This might be fine. Philosophically, it might be fine. You're solving problems for the future generations. But along the way, as a human, you need to have a motivation. And that doesn't give you the motivation. So probably it would be better to change your course and feel the results immediately of the efforts in your putting. So that stays with me, voice stays with me. And fast forward to my PhD in math. I was looking, I did my PhD in UT Arlington. I was looking for a math problem and see the immediate result of that in the application. So when I was looking for this different possible options that I might have, at the time, I'm talking about 2001, 2002, 3D printing was a new research concept, basically. We didn't have a 3D printer as a mass object available to everyone. And one of the components, there are a lot of research behind the 3D printing, by the way. So it's not something that you're using a couple of buttons and then it prints something for you. And the research behind that basically says, in order to create a 3D print, you need to be able to map the object on the surface of a shape. And before that, we had the graphs, but for the 3D printers, we need to embed a graph on a 3D shape. And the simplest form of a 3D shape that we can think of is going to be a sphere. And mostly because of the printers, they're starting at some starting point that we can call that, let's say, bottom. And then it goes and moves forward to the top. We can see that what we have is going to be a direction as another component. Now, the concept of embedding planar graphs on spheres or any other 3D shapes still is an open problem. So we don't have an algorithm that basically gets a shape and tells you, okay, if it's embeddable on a sphere or any other three-dimensional shape. So a sphere obviously is going to be a lot simpler than the other shapes like torus that has a hole or multi-torus that has multiple holes. And my PhD dissertation is focusing on generating a heuristic algorithm, mathematical heuristic algorithm that embeds graphs, and then first checks if it's embeddable or not, and if it is, and then embeds that using a heuristic approach on the sphere. So that dissertation opened a new era for me, and that was the applications of mathematical work. And obviously, I was more interested to see that how we can implement that. My knowledge mostly was the abstract knowledge. I didn't have much of application or applied knowledge and doing the programming. So after getting my PhD, I was hoping that I can find the time and I can also invest in that area, that part as well. And I got a job offer in University of Connecticut, excited about the tenure track position in one of the universities in Connecticut.